Thank you for working. Thank you for your hard work in getting this straightened out. It's not. This is everybody's worst nightmare. I've been there. We've all been there at some point if we do any kind of online content, especially live. But thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I'm excited to share basically something that I have kind of put together from my years of experience in just selling projects in the landscape industry. Um, I titled this talk, Four Ways to Close More Jobs. And in fact, let me pull up my slides so that you guys will get that rolling. But essentially, I did this to speak from the frame of not just more tactics or scripts, but more from the frame of what I saw actually move the needle in helping us close more jobs. And if this is the first time I'm coming on to, if any of you tuning in or watching, if this is the first time you've encountered me, my name's Weston Zimmerman, and I'm from Central Pennsylvania. I've been a contractor my whole life, working in a company at Tussey Landscaping, which is in rural Pennsylvania, South Central Pennsylvania, and right in the middle of the beautiful Appalachian Mountains. I love entrepreneurship, systems and processes, and long story, which I won't get into today, but today I'm running a company called Synced Up, which is an app to help landscape contractors price their jobs correctly for profit and save time in the operations of their business. And so that's what I'm doing in my day-to-day today. So I get to speak and see hundreds of companies all across North America, and you get to see a lot of what's working and what's not working. And my intention is to share four key principles of what I think moves the needle the most in closing jobs and not spending time on jobs that will never close. So just to give you a bit of an intro to the company I worked for, I'm going to play this video, which kind of gives you I guess, a background and a context from with which a lot of the stuff I'm going to share was learned or came from.
I've been in this business my whole life. I was 15 years old when my dad and my brothers and I founded Tussey Landscaping. Tussey really did have modest beginnings. We started out cutting lawns, whatever we could find to stay busy and grow the business. Today, Tussey Landscaping is a design-build company. We are best known for creating outdoor living spaces. An outdoor project or living space is not unlike a remodel or an addition to your home, and this can be an overwhelming process. That's where I think Tussey excels, in helping to guide you through these steps and these decisions with an experienced design team. My brother Matt and I have promoted and cultivated a culture where everyone on our team has the opportunity to grow and excel in promoting Tussey's vision.
We've been in business 28 years now. Between real-world experience and the skill sets of many talented people on our team, I believe Tussey is capable of delivering an experience that will go beyond your expectations.
Today, we are motivated and guided by the same principles that were foundational to us in the beginning. We believe in a hard day's work, integrity, and just plain treating people right. My name's Steve Martin.
And I'm Matt Martin, and we would love to be part of your next outdoor projects.
So that gives you an idea of where a lot of my experience and context has come from. And I share that just so that you know the frame with which the slides I share are kind of have evolved from. And I'm going to kick it off by sharing like the top reasons that I see people name for not winning the job. And the top one that you hear all the time is price. It's too, I'm going to go for the cheaper contractor. And another one that I see that doesn't get talked about nearly as much, but I think has almost more impact on winning or losing the job, which is taking too long to get the quote back. And finally, not a good fit client. And I'm going to unpack these three things as we go through the slides. But to close more jobs, the 4 things I have is to, for once and for all, nail down your pricing. If you can do this, it unlocks so much efficiency and speed on the tail end, and lets you speed up your quote turnaround time. But the four main things that I'm going to name here to win more jobs more effectively is to nail down your pricing, filtering your leads, speeding up your quote turnaround time, and of course delivering a professional proposal, not a napkin, not a yellow legal pad with pencil scratches all over it. And diving right in, getting started right down into the nailing down your pricing side. What this will do is give you a confidence. You know, that you've heard people say sometimes that in sales, customers can smell the fear on you, or they can smell the lack of confidence on you, and it is extremely true. And one of the most effective things that can help you gain confidence is nailing down your pricing, so that when a client is saying, hey, you know, you submitted a bid for 50 grand for a project and they're saying, hey, can you do it for 45? If you waver for even a moment, that is not what confidence looks like. So I'm gonna dive into that. So I'm gonna paint the picture of what's all too common of a situation in the industry with landscape contractors out there bidding jobs. And that is, you get a lead for your biggest job yet. You're so excited. You can't wait to win this job. You're already envisioning what it's going to look like on your Instagram profile. And you sweat for hours, crunching all the numbers. And you get to the point where you're hovering over that button, that send for review, or or if you're doing in-person presentation, you drive in the driveway and you got this big fat number on this proposal you're about ready to present to your client. And you start having these doubts and these like, but oh man, is it, are they going to go for that? Is it too much? And when you do present it and they do see the number and they're like, yeah, can you do it for 5 grand less? Can you do it for, you know, a few percent less? What can happen if you're not rock solid confident on your pricing is you'll look at the schedule, the leads are slowing down, you need the work, and you'll go, yeah, sure. Never realizing that what you just did is negotiate your profit away. And when you do that, it's no longer even a job that you want to win. So what you try to solve these problems and nail down this pricing is spreadsheets. This is stuff that we've all, in some form or fashion, done in our experience as a contractor. You just pore over spreadsheets or download spreadsheet templates and try to figure out, like, how does this math really need to work? You do hours and hours of crunching the math. You know, if I could see you right now in a live presentation, I'd be asking you how many of you have guessed, and raise your hands. And being you're invisible to us on this live, you can raise your hands, no judgment. We won't even know. But but we've all, in some form or fashion, been guilty of literally guessing on what a job should be priced at. And we've all been aware of the all too common questions in Facebook groups saying, hey, what would you charge for this? How would you price this? Some of us get annoyed by it. Some of us genuinely try to help the person that's asking, and some of us just scroll right on by. But we all know what this is. And the result is, it can feel like you're reinventing the wheel for every quote. It can feel like you're ending up allowing the client to negotiate on the price, and like they own the frame of the conversation, not you. And you end up negotiating on the price instead of the scope of work. And what this results in is you work your tail off. It's not a matter of you working hard or not. You work your tail off, but the bank account balance just does not show the results or the reward. What the solution is to getting this confidence and nailing down your pricing for once and for all at a high level is just building a budget is the terminology. But what that means is plugging all of your expenses and costs into a budget. The budget spits your pricing back out. And when I say that, I mean what your man-hour rate needs to be, what your overhead recovery markups need to be, what your profit margin needs to be, to give you that rock solid confidence in every quote, which doesn't let you undersell yourself. When you know what your break even is on every single job, you won't go under it. But if you don't know what your break even is on every single job that you quote, You can be tempted to negotiate with the client and never realizing that you might be dipping too close to that break-even line. And I've even seen contractors that negotiate until they're underneath the break-even line and they're literally doing the job for free, or they're paying to do the job. And that's the situation we all need to avoid. But to get into the nitty-gritty just for a sec, just to make sure that we're on the same page on this whole pricing thing, nailing down your pricing. What a lot of people do is they take the cost, like direct labor and materials of a job that they're about to bid and perform, and they tack on a gross profit margin to come out with the customer's price. When you do that, there is a significant factor that is missing in this equation. The correct formula is cost plus overhead recovery plus profit. These three numbers together equal the customer's price. And I'll get into why. So what you don't want to do, switching gears, is this is a real screenshot, by the way, from a real Facebook group post. What are you charging a square foot? There's so many things wrong with this. First of all, what you're charging should be your numbers and your numbers only. Every business has a different cost structure, different overhead structure, different equipment, different team, different salaries. So what other people are charging, sure, it might be interesting to benchmark yourself, but should not be what drives your pricing. Okay, what needs to drive your pricing is your costs, and square foot pricing is it's a rough one, not one that I'm going to unpack on this call because that's not the focus of this call today. But just suffice to say, if you're doing this, pay attention because we want to get you to confidence accurately all the time in your quoting. So just defining this real quickly. Cost is anything with direct costs. Like these are the expenses that you have if you win the job. If you do not win the job, you do not have these expenses. So for instance, labor, materials, if you're doing a patio or a hardscape job, the stone base, the pavers, the edge restraint, the joint sand, and all the labor you're going to do the job, that's all a direct cost. The overhead cost is the cost that you have to keep the lights on, and you're going to have to pay these bills regardless whether you win the job or not. So this includes things like your trucks and your equipment, your fuel, your taxes, your advertising, your tools, and if you notice the one I missed at the top, your owner's salary. The owner's salary is an overhead expense, and you have basically the business's profit is not the owner's salary. An owner needs to be paid, unless it's an absentee owner, that's different. But an owner needs to be paid for what they do in the business in salary, and the profit is what the owner gets to take home as net profit distributions for taking on the risk of being the business owner. So if you're an owner operator working in the business and you own it, you need to be paying yourself a salary for market rate, like whatever you'd have to pay someone to do your job, essentially. Some of you are doing the job of 3 people, ops manager, salesperson, office admin, plus installer. Like, what would you have to pay those people if you hired people to fill your role and you no longer work, you're now an absentee owner? What would you have to pay those people? That's what should be in your budget for your overhead expenses toward an owner's salary. And then the business needs to make a profit after it's paid you that salary. The net profit is what's left after there literally is not another bill left to pay, including paying the owner a salary, not net profit distribution. That's another thing. This net profit distribution, which is on my screen right now, that's what any owner, absentee or owner operator, gets for the risk of owning the business. So when there's literally no bill left to pay, both direct costs and overhead costs, that's what your net profit is. Those 3 numbers together are what come up with your pricing a job. Here's what pricing a job should look like. So again, direct costs, labor, materials, subs, and equipment. These are the costs I get if I win the job. I don't have these costs if I don't win the job. Multiplied by my overhead recovery markup rate to cover my overhead costs as well to get me to my break even. Then I take my break even multiplied by my profit margin to come up with my customer's price. So 3 components to coming up with it. And the variable for every one of you is what percentage do I need to mark up my direct cost to also cover my overhead costs. The overhead cost is what's different for every business. Let me give you an example. If 2 businesses, a 2-man show and a pickup truck and a strong back, go out and bid a 20 by 20 patio, and a large business with a fleet of equipment, multiple teams, ops managers, production managers, office admin, go and bid the same 20 by 20 patio, they will have the same direct costs up here, but those 2 businesses have significantly different overhead costs. For that reason, the 2-man company and the, say, 20-man company will have the same direct costs, but have very different overhead costs, which means they will have a very different number here in this yellow overhead cost recovery section, which means that 2 companies can bid the exact same job and have 2 very different prices, and that's okay. The point is your costs are your costs. They are what they are, and you need to recover them. And it's not like the 2-man company has to be the same price as the large company or vice versa. It's literally your costs are what they are. The math doesn't lie. And if you do this will get you the right price, and you can put it to rest for once and for all and have confidence that that's my break even. So when you submit a bid to Mrs. Jones for $17,460 and she says, well, can you do it for $15,000? You know your break even is $14,550. You're not going to do that. So anyway, moving on. I don't want to give too much. Weight to this whole pricing thing, because this is about closing more jobs. I just want to. The point I'm trying to drive home here is that we have to put this topic at rest for once and for all, so that you can have confidence in what your jobs are priced at, so that when Mrs. Jones asks you, can you do this $17,000 job for $15,000, you can stand there and say, no, I can't. Well, actually, I can. Would you like to swap it out for a cheaper paver? Would you like to cut out the lighting so that I can meet your budget for $15,000? I can negotiate on scope all day, but I cannot negotiate on price. See the difference? Very key difference. And it's not our client's faults, because whose job is it? Like, we live in a consumer society where you walk into TJ Maxx and everything's 50% off. Like, this is just the society we live in, and it's kind of the consumer buying pattern that people are accustomed to. They don't understand that construction or services don't work that way. And so whose job is it to educate them as to what things cost? It's our job. And so when Mrs. Jones, when you submit a quote to Mrs. Jones for $17,000 and she says, can you do it for $15,000? It's not necessarily her fault for asking that. It's more our job to help Mrs. Jones make the best educated decision to get to the $15,000 number, if that's truly all she has. And I will do that by saying, well, if I swapped out this paver for a cheaper paver, I could get it to the 15. Would you like to do that? And then when she says, no, I really do want that nice looking paver that's more money, so I'll pay the 17. Don't worry about it. If you do that, now you know the truth. Do they really have the budget? They were just trying to see if you would cave and negotiate, or do they truly have a ceiling at the number they gave you, and they have to find a creative way to hit that? So anyway, our job is to help the client find creative solutions to their budget. So moving on, I already talked about the square foot pricing thing, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, being we got a late start. I'm just going to skip through this and go to, I also want to, for anyone watching, we do have a free tool that I'll send you. If you DM me or email me, I'll show it to you at the end of the presentation, that you can use to nail down your pricing. So if anything that I just covered in the pricing stuff here is something that you're like, yeah, I need more of that. How do I do it? I get the concept, but how do I do it? Hit me up on Instagram or my email, and I'll send you links to access these free tools. So I already kind of hammered this one home, but I'm just going to sink it in the negotiating thing. You can negotiate, no problem. Just don't negotiate on your price. And the way to not negotiate on your price is know exactly what your break even is. If you know what your break even is, you won't be tempted to negotiate on your price, and you will have the stamina or the confidence to negotiate on scope of work rather than price. Also remember to not associate your own value of $1 to theirs. Like literally, $100,000 for a full backyard makeover is a big deal to most of us. Like, that's a lot of money in our minds. We work for clients that may be less concerned about the $100,000. They just want it to be easy. They want to know it's going to be professional. They just want to know it's going to be done, not going to be any issues. They don't want to babysit the project. Like, remember to not associate, like if the client is telling you they want a cabana and a pool and an outdoor kitchen and a fireplace, and you're like, that's going to be somewhere in the 85 to 150K range. Are you cool with that? And they're like, yeah, give me a bid. Cool. That's all I need to know. And I'm not gonna assume that when I bid the job and it comes, whoa, 158, that, 158,000. They'll never go for that. How can I bring it down? Don't do that. Give them what they ask for. Let them tell you that it's too high, and then get into creative solutions to get it to what budget range they truly do need to hit. And finally, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. It really comes down to a head game. It really is. So confidence is the biggest drug you can take to solve this problem for once and for all in your own sales persona and presence and presentation, and the way you conduct yourself and hold yourself through the conversation and the process with the client. So just remember, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I already kind of hit this, so I'm going to skip through about the point of adjusting scope of a job to meet their budget while maintaining your profit. Remember, never negotiate on your profit. Always negotiate on your cost to meet the client's job. If you just negotiate on price and don't touch the scope, all you did was negotiate your profit away. That's all you did. And if it gets to a point where you're getting too close to that break even, you're not getting like at least a minimum 10% net profit, I'd rather not do the job. I'd rather take my guys to the lake if I'm going to work for free, So, always bid what they ask for at your normal profit margin, and don't let your head trash get in the way from giving them that number that the quote comes out to for what they ask for. So the next one, this one is really big. So now I've hammered home pricing and negotiating based on not negotiating on price, but on scope. I've hammered that home. I'm going to be switching a little bit now to the second chapter of this talk. And I really think that this second chapter of the talk, like the whole pricing and negotiating thing, is kind of the things that you run through maybe in the early phases of your sales, like selling jobs career. There comes a point where you kind of mature in that aspect, and you've kind of put that to bed. You've kind of put that to rest in your mind, and you no longer fight the confidence problem. Once you've done your budget, once you've established your numbers and your break evens and your overhead recovery and your profit, once you've done that, it really comes down to a point of finding the clients that can pay what you need to charge for the work that you do. Meaning, well, I'll just get into the slides. It really comes down to filtering your leads to make sure you're not giving bids to clients that can never buy from you anyway, is really what it's coming down to. This has been one of the most effective things we've done at Tussie Landscaping. Like, again, the whole numbers and pricing thing is a bit of it's probably the first stage of the battle. The filtering thing is the second stage. But what is I can't engage with you because this is through a webinar, but if I was on stage in person with you, the first thing I'd ask you is like, what do you think of when you think of filtering leads? And why do you think filtering is needed? Just consider that for a moment. Why do you think that we have to filter our leads? And I'll show you this to sink the point home. So my good friend Sean from Premier Outdoor, I'm using one of his beautiful Instagram photos of one of his projects to make a point. But that is, when you get a client that says, "This is what I want," and they have this whole Pinterest or Instagram kind of like a gallery of stuff that they love, and they show you this picture, which is a $150 to $200K project, and they're like, "Yep, and I got a $20,000 budget." This is why you have to filter, because this happens. And it's okay. It's not the client's fault. Again, going back to, it's our job to educate and inform clients as to what things cost. They don't know. It's not their fault. We have to be the professional that gently, professionally, in a way that doesn't make them feel embarrassed, educates them as to what things cost. So when the client comes to me in this way, I don't want to make them feel embarrassed that they came to me asking for a $200,000 project when they said they had a $20,000 budget. It's a little bit like going to a Ferrari dealership and saying, "Yeah, I got 50 grand. I want to buy a Ferrari." It's like, that's a nice cute little down payment, and then you feel embarrassed and you leave. Like, we don't want to have that experience. So the best thing we can do, well, let me just back up a second. If you go bid this job and you never asked Mrs. Jones, what is your budget? And then she also never told you that her budget is 20 grand. You just missed dinner again for no reason, chasing a lead that's never going to buy from you. That's what happens. And so common filtering methods are things like consultation fees, defined availability, getting a budget. And I'm going to break through my slides here to kind of unpack each one of these. So in consultation fees, it's a common topic on Facebook groups where it's like, I never charge, I give free estimates, or I always charge for your estimates, or charge for your designs. I would present to you that it's not about the money in the consultation fee. What it is about is not wasting your precious time on a lead that was never going to buy from you anyway, whether the client knew or not. Meaning, like, there might be a client that tells you, I'm absolutely going to do the job. I love this picture right here. We have been saving for years. We're totally going to do it. And then you get all the way down to this phase and you realize that they only had 20 grand. Like, they're never going to buy from you, whether they do it or not. And we need to gently, and it's our job to inform them. But my favorite way of filtering leads, like at Tussie Landscaping, we've done the consultation fee, we've done the defined availability. And what I mean by that is, like, don't ever ask a client, sure, when are you home? When can I come out? It's more of like, no, you are the expert. You are the professional. You are in demand. You tell them, hey, I'm available from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have a slot at 2 p.m. this next Thursday. Would that work for you? And you present times to them, not the other way around. Again, you are the professional. And defined availability is just it's just another way of vetting the leads, making sure that they truly are serious. And at Tussie, we played hardball with this. Like, we did not make exceptions. And because here's the thing, if they truly want that, they'll take off work to be there to do this consultation. They will. If they don't want it, or if it's if they're like, we'll see, like we might do this, or we might buy a boat instead. It's just a great way to get a read on their temperature and their investment and their commitment to doing this project. But anyway, kind of combining some of these principles I've been sharing, my favorite way of filtering leads ever has been what we called the project planner. So what the project planner does is it helps you educate the client as to what things cost. It helps you get a budget so you know what budget they have in mind, and it helps you understand what they want, all in one nice, easy workflow without ever making the client feel embarrassed. Because what I mean by making the client feel embarrassed, nobody wants to feel stupid. And I would feel, if I was your client, I would feel terrible if I called you and said, hey, I want to do this job. Here's a picture of what I have in mind. I show you the Instagram picture that I'm so enamored with. You come out, you paint a bunch of lines on the ground, you scratch out a rough sketch on paper, and we're talking about doing a design. And then at that moment, I discover that I tell you that my budget's 20 and you tell me that what you're talking about is more like 200. I feel like an idiot. I hate having that experience as a client. So this project planner really helps gently avoid that. And here's what I'm going to play a video of what this project planner looks like and how it works so you can follow along with what I'm saying. If I can get the audio to work. Oh, maybe I can't. So I'll just talk as the video is playing, but basically it's a workflow where when a client, let me just pause this for a second. When a client calls into Tussie Landscaping, I would just give you the workflow that Tussie Landscaping uses. When a client calls into Tussie Landscaping, it's like, okay, what are you looking for? And if it's like, oh, we just looking to hydro seed 1,000 square feet, that's the kind of thing that Tussie doesn't do. And well, the secretary that answers the phone call knows right away. They're like, well, we actually don't do that. Here's referrals to some people that do. But if they're like, oh, we want to do a patio and a fire pit, okay, great, sounds good. So we have a consultation fee, and we book consultations on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 8 and 4. And if they're like, sure, I'll pay the consultation fee. Sure, I'll be at home from 8 to 4 for the consultation. They've already passed 2 checks, 2 filters, and then it's like, after they pay the consultation fee, after they book the consultation, then the secretary will say, okay, one final step that I need you to do is fill out our form. We call it our project planner, which helps you pick out what you want and which tells us what you're looking for and all that. When they click on that, so I'm going to send you an email where you click on the link and build out your project. Good? Yeah, cool. Okay, good. Hang up the phone and send them the link. And then the client clicks on that link. And then what they see is this step 1 of 3, start building my project. And so they'll start building the project and they can see images and descriptions and price ranges and click around on the small, medium, and large version of the landscape or the lighting or the water feature. And what it's doing is it's helping them dream and kind of build the project together while at the same time educating them as to what things cost, completely avoiding the whole awkward, embarrassing, like realization discovery when you're already invested hours into this process with the client, that what they want is just far more than they anticipated spending. And we've literally had situations at Tussie where the client calls in, books a consultation, pays a consultation fee, and then gets the link to this project planner, and they start throwing in a pool and a water feature and lighting and landscaping and a patio and an outdoor kitchen. And they're like, oh, wow, this is way more money than I was expecting to spend. And 10 minutes later, they'll call back in the office and say, hey, actually, I'd like to cancel my consultation. And that is a win. That's not a loss, because you just saved yourself hours of wasted time and energy trying to win a job that was never going to close for you anyway. So this project planner is such a valuable tool is that it educates the clients as to what things cost. It tells you what their budget is. It tells you what they want. And it does so in a way that's psychologically safe. The client's not going to feel awkward making that discovery on a web page like they would if you were standing in their driveway having this budgeting conversation. So anyway, I digress. If you're ever interested in having a project plan like this installed on your website, I can hook you up with the web guy that built this. It's like $2 to $3 grand to install it on a WordPress website. Again, at the end, I'll share my contact information. You can hit me up and I'll share that contact to the web builder that built this with you if you'd like to have it in your own business. So I already hit this. I'm going to hit the speed up quote turnaround time. So I did a poll recently on my Instagram. And I asked contractors, what do you think is more likely to win the job? The cheapest quote or the first quote back, meaning the fastest quote turnaround time? And I think like 90+% of the respondents said this fastest quote. And I 100% agree. The psychology of fast lead turnaround time is undisputable. Like, studies have been done on it. There's tons of information and studies out there on it, in that how important quote turnaround or lead response time is. Like, in the context of, like, let's say you get a lead on your website, somebody drops you a contact form. It is unbelievable how, like, after 5 minutes, on one study that I read, after 5 minutes, the likelihood of that lead converting dropped by over 90%. It's insane. Now, I know there's variances in different industries and depending what you're selling and all of that, but it truly is a massive factor. And I argue that it is a larger factor than being the cheapest quote. Speeding up, this is the goal, to speed up the estimating process and get your quotes back to your customers quicker. And I'm just going to plus onto the whole know your numbers conversation that I kicked it off with, which is like, if you can nail down your pricing and stop overanalyzing and reinventing the wheel in every single quote you do, and it's just like bam, 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 templates and production rates, and you in a matter of minutes you can get your price out, that is going to help you win jobs as effectively, if not more effectively, than being competitively priced. And just to give you an example of what's possible, I talked to a client from California that uses Synced Up, that used to quote $250,000 jobs, multi-six-figure backyard makeovers in spreadsheets. It would take him 2 to 3 days to pull a quote together. After he had onboarded into Synced Up and done templates and production rates and all of that, he could bid that same job in 10 to 15 minutes. That's the power of nailing down pricing, getting templates and production rates in your bidding process, so you're not reinventing the wheel every single time, crunching the numbers in your head every single time. Like, templates and production rates is essentially the act of getting all the information that's in your head that is from 20 years of experience, doing brain surgery, and getting it out and baking it into systems and processes, templates and production rates that help you just like new quote, drag in my patio template, plug in my measurements, all the numbers are done. That's the power, and that's one of the most effective ways to speed up your quote turnaround time. Go from reinventing the wheel, doing a bunch of mental math every single time, to templates and production rates that you just plug in measurements and bam, you got your numbers. And you're going to win more jobs by providing a quote quickly. And in most cases, like let's say you're a company that does, your bread and butter is $50,000 patios. You can do a quote like that before leaving the driveway, no problem. Absolutely. I've seen it done. I've seen it done over and over and over again. So if you can do that, you will win that quote far more likely than if you are the cheapest guy giving the quote. Another tip to speed up your quote turnaround time is don't be calling your vendors for pricing on every quote. Now, asterisk on this, COVID really threw a wrench into this. So you probably actually should be at least regularly checking that the pricing information that you have on hand in your spreadsheet or in your software or whatever your price book is up to date. It used to be that the pricing would be set for the year and you didn't have to guess it again. But in this day and age, you do have to check. So I'm not saying don't keep your pricing updated. I'm saying keep your pricing updated, but don't be like, oh, I need to do a bid for a patio with that payer that I haven't done before. So I'm calling the vendor and my sales guy's not available. He'll call me back. Well, I got to the end of the business day. Now it's tomorrow and I got busy and 3 days go by and I still don't have the price that I need. So I can bid the quote. So I can turn around the quote to the client. You see what I'm saying? You don't want to be doing that. And if you can use an estimating software, this problem can be dramatically alleviated. This is an example of how you can keep your pricing.
So on price books, you want to at least get a PDF or a price book from your vendor ready and have it available with you on your clipboard or keep it with you when you're building quotes. So you're not constantly calling people asking what the price is.
I basically said what I already said in that video. Like either have it on hand in a price book or in a spreadsheet or in an estimating software so you can quickly and efficiently find the price of the cost of goods that you're going to be inserting into that quote. Production rates are key to doing it quickly. I'll show you how a production rate works.
Okay, so the whole idea of building a production rate is so I don't have to run a calculator on every single estimate to figure out how much stone I need or how much mulch I need, whatever it is. So instead of doing that on every single job, you can take a spreadsheet or an estimating software and go to production rate, and basically it's taking your past consumption of a product on a job and figuring out like how much you need per square foot or whatever it is, so that you can use that production rate on your next bid. And I'll just kind of run down through what the numbers look like. So right here, I'm building a hypothetical production rate for number 57 stone base under a patio. And hypothetically, I'm saying, hey, it took me 27.5 tons of stone for a 650 square foot patio, which means that it took 0.0423 tons of stone. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just dividing the 27.5 by the 650. There's my formula. Divide the 27.5 by the 650 to come up with my production rate. Now that I have that, I can come over here pretending I'm building a bid for my next job. And I can say, hey, my next patio is 1,200 square feet. Okay, I need 50 tons. My next patio is 250 square feet. Okay, I need 10 tons. You can do this in a spreadsheet. You can do this in an estimating software. It just saves a ton of time and a ton of manual clicking around on a calculator.
And templates will also drastically shorten the time it takes to build an estimate. And basically, production rates are embedded inside of a template. And this is what I mean by that.
Okay, so this is what I mean when I say let's build a template to speed up time. So if you do this manually, you would be manually figuring out how much labor you're going to use, how much geotextile and stone and all of that. You'd be manually doing all that every time you build a quote. But in spreadsheets or in your estimating software, you can build templates to dramatically shorten the time it takes to do a quote. So for instance, I have a template here with all of my items that I use every time I do a patio. And maybe I would swap out the pavers for a different cost or whatever, but everything's pre-populated here. And I can literally just come in here and type in my square footage and my lineal footage on the edges, and bam, it immediately is taking my cost, adding my overhead, plus my profit to arrive at my customer's price, and gives me a total price right there. And it gives me the breakdown of my costs, overhead recovered, and my profit on the job. or what this would look like in a estimating software like this one. I can just create a work area, call it patio, and pop open my catalog browser. And here I have a bunch of templates in here, drag and drop my patio template, and bam, I've got all my stuff in there. And I can just say, well, it's, 850 square feet, and it gives me the total hours I need. I can do it for my stone. So this is super, super effective to save a ton of time and also just pull information out of your head into something that's in a system and in a process that.
Okay, so I was already saying something I'd already said in that video, so I'm just going to move on. But Gary, I see some of your comments there about estimating man hours. Yeah, estimating man hours is difficult. Here's the thing. The way to build confidence in estimating man hours is by tracking your man hours out in the field on production. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a job that has landscaping, it has hardscaping, and it has lighting. When I'm building that estimate, I'm estimating my man hours for my landscaping. I'm estimating my man hours for my patio, my hardscape. Then I'm estimating my man hours to install my lighting. I'm estimating on a per work area level or a per line item level. Then let's just say it's the very first time I'm ever estimating. So I'm kind of guessing how long it's going to take me with a 3-man crew. Okay. But the way I can move from guessing to turning that labor into a production rate is by tracking how long it actually took me out in the field to install that landscape, to install that hardscape, and to install that lighting. So let's say I bid, it's going to take me 50 hours to do the landscape, and it's 85 perennials, 30 shrubs, and 5 trees. And if I track my man hours out in the field, I can then say, well, it actually took me 42 man hours, which means I can build a production rate to that. Oh, we can do 15 perennials per 1 man hour. We can plant 1 tree per man hour. We can plant 3 shrubs per 1 man hour, whatever. The point is you're coming out with production rates. With hardscape, let's say I bid it was going to take me 120 man hours to install the patio. And then it took me 140. Well, what I want to do is take the square footage of that patio divided by the man hours it actually took, which say maybe I can install 3.5 square feet of patio from breaking ground to cleaning up per man hour. Now, I'll track that on every job, and let's say I get 10 jobs of data and 20 jobs of data and 50 jobs of data. The more jobs of data I get on how many man hours it took per square foot to actually install that, the more accurate my production rate will be. And so the answer to getting confident in bidding labor on the estimated side is tracking out in the field and converting that into production rates. And converting that into production rates is just like, took me 100 man hours, it was 250 square feet. I take the 100 divided by 250, come up with my production rate. Or it took me 30 man hours to plant 80 shrubs, take the 30 divided by 80 and come up with how many shrubs I can plant per man hour. Like, that's what it looks like. So the key really is to tracking. What I tend to see, though, is a lot of people want the production rates to estimate more efficiently for labor, but they don't want to exercise the discipline of tracking labor on each individual task so that they have the data that they can use to turn that into a production rate. And here's the other thing. You cannot use other people's production rates. You just can't. It's not. Other people have more seasoned crew members, different equipment. You could, if you were, nobody has really done this yet. It's kind of a pipe dream of mine to get to the point where we track actual labor, but we have parameters like it was this machine, the crew had this many years of experience, So you have all these parameters to where you could actually start benchmarking production rates and actually get some benchmark production rates that other people could use that have never actually done the work and don't have any actual data tracked. But anyway, I digress. I'm moving on. Production rates on labor. The key to that secret is to track the labor out in the field so you can then divide that man hours it actually took by the number of plants or the square footage or the lineal footage of cutting or whatever it is you're doing to come up with a production rate. And that production rate is what unlocks your ability to accurately estimate your labor. So why I would spend time setting this up, it's all in service of saving time and taking what's in my head out into a repeatable process that other people other than myself can do. If you refuse to do the overhead work of sitting down and setting this up, you will never graduate to a point where someone else can produce a quote for you just as accurately as you. Some of us in the owner operator industry, we're always charging. We're just moving too fast to sit down and do this tracking and to do this data work. And what ends up happening is we end up never being able to break out of the entrepreneurial prison because we are the only ones that have the information that can produce a quote. If we do a little bit of the overhead work and sit down and track this stuff and do a bit of the data analysis to come up with production rates, we take what's in here, turn it into a repeatable process and formulas, and literally an office admin that can run a tape measure and plug in measurements can build an accurate quote. It really can be that way. So those are the keys to speeding it up. And then finally, I'm just going to hit on professional proposals. It might feel a little, yeah, of course, duh, but we really do need to be professional in how we interact and engage with our clients. Be the easiest person to do business with, and you will win more often. If you're doing this on legal pads, handwritten, like we are in 2023, leverage technology, be the easiest person to do business with, have the best client experience, be the best at communicating, have a professional proposal that helps the client understand what it is you're going to do for them, warm up to the idea, establish trust and credibility and confidence in your vision and in your work. And when you have the way you know that you've established trust and confidence in your client, from your client into you, is when they sign on the dotted line and give you a check. That's really a transfer of trust and confidence. What you want to be doing is professional proposals and being the easiest to do business with. Like software can do things like give you optional line items, like where you can submit a quote to the client with good, better, best, and price for good, price for better, price for best, and let the client select what they want. Make it easy to just sign and pay. You don't want to be the kind of clients or the kind of contractor that's like, oh yeah, now that you approved it verbally, let me send you a DocuSign so you can sign our contract and let me run out or drop the check off at the office, or like that type of interaction is so, I'll just say, not needed. Like it's such an easy problem to get better at and to solve in today's age that there's no reason to be still operating that way. And it's a much better client experience that just remove the friction, look for opportunities to remove friction. And you will establish a professionalism about yourself and your company when doing that will set you apart from the rest of the industry. So I'm just going to share you a quick video of what this looks like inside of a software.
So in the name of being the easiest one to do business with, this is how you can send digital proposals. Use software to send you digital proposals and make it really easy for your customer. I have a job here already built. I'm just going to send this out as a customer proposal. I'm going to turn on the different work areas I want to include with the pricing for each and the descriptions and everything of each. I can check off, like, and automatically submit a down payment invoice to the customer as soon as they approve anything. My payment schedule's here, and I can send it to them for review. And I can also just text them a link like this, and they can see it. Just by clicking on the link, I can turn different things on and off in the proposal to make it flexible or allow you to give them good, better, best situations. And they can be like, well, I'll do the landscape myself, but I want the patio. Approve, sign, done. Easy peasy. And oh, by the way, it's not done yet, because now in the old way, you would still have to run out there and go pick up a check or get them to mail you a payment for the down payment. But nope, this already automatically sent them an email with a down payment invoice directly from your QuickBooks Online account with the right amount, all the descriptions, everything already preloaded. Easy peasy. All you do is you get a notification, bingo, quote approved. A few minutes later, bingo, invoice paid. Easy to do business with.
And that is awesome. That's when business is running efficiently, easy to do business with. I love it when I see it executed in a business. And you're right, Gary. Every project is different. And I want to be sensitive to the time. But one thing I'll say to your comment of each project is different and site conditions vary is that any variable that significantly impacts how long it takes you. So let's say rocky soil, you can only plant 10 shrubs per hour. Good soil, you can plant 20 shrubs per hour. Then you want to do a production rate for rocky soil versus good soil. If you are going to do a production rate for hardscapes where you can get a machine in the backyard to do the hardscape, or you can't, and now it's all done by wheelbarrow, track it separately. Build a production rate for difficult access versus easy access. Anything that has an impact on how long it takes is how you should split up, like production rate A, production rate B, production rate C. And then when you're bidding the job, you're like, I can't get an excavator back there, so I'm going to have to use the difficult access production rate. And if that's really it can be tempting to get to the point where you're splitting hairs. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it simple, stupid, you know. I only want to set up the structure the structure of my data, my production rates and all that, my templates in a way that makes it easier to do business and doesn't just delve into this endless analysis paralysis. I've definitely seen people go to the extreme end of this, and it turns into analysis paralysis where they're just like blowing their brains on, wow, all these variables and all of that. But I digress. Keep it simple. Even if you just start tracking production rates and you're like, well, this is going to be more difficult access than normal, so I'm just going to take what the production rate gives me and I'm going to increase it by 20%. That's better than not having a production rate at all. You know, just going in with your eyes wide open. So keep it simple. Make sure it's serving you and not overwhelming you is my answer to that. Be confident, be professional, be prompt, do what you said you will do, and you will close more proposals. I can guarantee you that. I've seen it hundreds of times. So with that, if you have any questions or any follow-up, if you want to do the project planner, or if you want to get the access to that free tool that I alluded to earlier when I was talking about the pricing, like if you're at that stage where you need to, like, dude, I need to fix this. I need to figure out, like, what is my break even? Hit me up either on Instagram or on my email right here on the screen, and I can send you links to those free tools. If you want the contact of the web guy that built the project planner, I can also do that. Also, just email me or message me on Instagram. Or if you just want to talk shop, I love talking to others of you out in the industry. So any questions, any problem you have with anything I said, or anything you want to add to what I said to make it better, I'm all ears. Thank you for letting me present today. And this was fun. Thanks for dealing with our little technical glitch at the beginning, and appreciate your patience.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Weston. And I just to reiterate what Gary says, that he's impressed with your knowledge. Really great presentation, and you did it quickly and efficiently. So thank you for that patience, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Bye.